All right.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to A Casual Conversation with Alex Dalton. I'm here with Reuben Sinha, and we're just going to talk about a few things about Reuben's life and what we have going on. So, Reuben,
Sounds
if you could
great.
just do everyone a little favor, maybe tell us who you are, what you do, and
Absolutely.
where we're at here.
Okay. Wait, how much time do we have?
As much as you want.
You got enough batteries for this one? Something about myself. I'm a painter, and I also make ceramics, as you know. I started doing this full time finally in my life about 2 years ago. I've always enjoyed painting. When I had a kid, I became interested in teaching and became a teacher. I taught for 15 years in the New York City public school system. I like high school kids. They're fun. They're just great, to mess around with, and they mess around with you. And art was cool. We had fun. I thought it was a great challenge for a lot of them to, teach them how to always think outside the box. That was my main goal. Now so we're in a space right now, which is my second project since leaving teaching, and this is an old subway sandwich store. I don't know if there's Subway sandwich stores anywhere else in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they are.
Oh,
They're
I actually
everywhere.
think they passed McDonald's. They have more stores than McDonald's now.
Really?
They have the most, of any fast food chain in the
Yeah, we
US.
should have researched that, right? Because we are on sacred ground here. As I've been telling everybody, there have been thousands of turkey sandwiches made here
Yeah.
before, and you can feel the grease if you want to lick the fake brick paper wallpaper over there.
On the day of the opening event, some dude came up and he was like, "What's going on here, man? I used to work here. It was a Subway. Can I get a sandwich?"
Really?
And Stefan was like, "Dude, no. Get out of here."
I
He
used
walked
to
away.
work here. Can I get a sandwich?
It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So-
what is this place?
So this is being times as they are, I saw all these empty storefronts, and I wanted to turn it into a gallery, and just get out of my cellar and paint out on the street, on street level, so anybody could walk in. Because I guess I have a lot of people in my neighborhood who are interested in my work, and who have always said, come on by and hang out, and you can see what I'm doing, and I'll tell you all about it. And they would say, yeah. But this, I thought, would make it really easy for them to come by, which nobody has from that group. So,
well, tell me a little bit more about that. What neighborhood is it that you're in right now?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we are in Harlem. I live in Central Harlem, and so this was meant to be for the community, where I applied for a grant that said I'm going to take a storefront and turn it into a temporary pop-up studio, gallery, and also concert venue. So in the daytimes, I'm here painting all day long, and there's another artist in the back, Joanne Dugan, and she's working on her pieces. They're lovely if you get a chance to see them. And I usually get in around 7 a.m. in the morning because the light is just beautiful. I leave the doors wide open. I think all the homeless and the crackheads around here now know me as a permanent fixture, so no one's tried to come in.
Yeah.
I did have a fat kid bang on the window door, and he was like, "Can I use the bathroom?" I looked at him and I was like, "No way,
Nice shot,
bro."
Marco. Keep it pushing.
I was like, "Nah, I don't want you blowing up my bathroom." So I'm sorry. There's gonna be a lot of bathroom humor here today. So the store, Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, which is this area's New York State arts, um, subsection. So I guess New York State, what they do is they have money for the arts, and they give it to districts or to regions. And for Manhattan, they give the money to Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, and then there's another group up here called the Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone, and they also have money because they want people to just put more into the community. And so both of them together gave me some money, and I approached everybody around here. Nobody wanted to give a spot for a month, but these guys were like, "Yeah, okay, we know, we're
Yeah,
fine with it."
I remember just a little like background for everyone listening. This was really last minute. I mean, you were looking for a space for a while,
Right.
and we're definitely going to dive a little bit later in our talk into kind of the business aspects of what it is that you do.
Sure.
But I wanted to know a little bit more. I asked about the community. What's the history here? Like you mentioned, it's your second project since you dived into, or since you dove into this full time. What was going on before this?
But it's actually my third project with the community, and I've got another one coming up. So my first was when Bush got reelected, and I was an artist. This is before I started teaching, and I was actually just working full time as an artist, and there was no money, and so interestingly enough, the the year that he got reelected was the year that there were more nonprofits formed around the entire country of people looking and seeing that, hey, we need to sort of take care of our own communities because there's not much that's going to be coming down in the trickle. So I started a group, and it was called Art Harlem, and we did the Harlem Open Artist Studio Tour, where we managed to so we produced a weekend event over like 50, 60 venues all across Harlem, from the east side, like 2nd Avenue and 104th Street, all the way up to 158th and Riverside. So this is like the span of Manhattan from 106 to 158. That's like a 50-block radius. So it's a really dense area and a lot going on. And so we got all these artists to come on board, and I have no idea how we managed it. I think we were just plain dumb, and we're like, okay, we'll do it. Yeah, we can do it.
I think it just sort of it is insane, and like the words almost don't do it justice, because just in those blocks alone, I mean, there's probably like 1 million people.
Easily.
It's ridiculous.
That's right.
And you somehow managed to organize an event that incorporated 50 to 60 different open studios with those artists.
Yeah,
and that was
insane. And about 100 artists. What was also very weird was that initially when I was doing it, there was a lot of people were like, "Well, who the hell are you to be coming into Harlem, which is predominantly African American, and who are you to represent us?
Yeah,
who the hell do you think you are?" And then there were people who just had no idea, because they were like, "Well, he's not exactly white, but I don't know what the hell he is." So I was able to play off that confusion a lot. But initially, there were a couple of people here who just supported me.
Yeah.
And that just kind of carried it, because I remember I went to the Harlem Arts Alliance, which was a big group back then, to announce it. And I was just going everywhere, doing anything I could in order to get more and more and more people to join. And so when I went there, of course, someone said, "Who the hell are you?" And Vosa Rivers, who was on stage, and he's just been known here, he was just like, "Whoa, you need to hold on. He's my guest, and he's here, and he's doing an amazing thing. So you need to show him some respect." And I was like, "Ooh, okay, thank you, Vosa. I appreciate that. It's good." But I thought she had a very, very valid question, like, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And that was actually a perfect leeway for me to tell anybody, like, "You're absolutely right. I am nobody. I need help. Will you help me?"
Yeah.
And a lot of times people be like, "Yeah, okay." And other times it kind of like, I've got to go do something.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Yeah.
I want to unpack that a little bit. So how long have you been in Harlem, and like why
Okay.
were you no one? Like have you been here for a long time? What's
Yeah.
the story there?
So we lived in Brooklyn, my wife and I, and our rent just kept going up. Um, and our our we lived in a brownstone owned by Arthur Ashe, the famous tennis player.
Okay.
Yeah, and he never gave me back my deposit, which I was sort of thought was just like wrong, man. And I went back and I was like, dude, I want my deposit. You know, and he, his realtor's like, I'm so sorry, he's not giving it back to you. And back then I didn't know that that's illegal.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mr. Ash, you still owe me a deposit, I believe.
Make sure the word gets done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, get the word out, man. So our rent was going up, and I came up here once with my wife, and we stayed with some friends, and it was just beautiful. It was such a beautiful neighborhood, and it took me a while to convince her. So while I fell into it, her comfort with it had to grow a little bit, but we ultimately ended up buying a brownstone and fixing the whole thing up, which is a very long, involved story of how we got it to. There was actually a Sopranos episode made on the guy who was scamming us.
No way.
The guy from whom we bought it was running a scam, and it was so famous that it was in the New York Times about how he was doing it, about how he purchased all these empty shells, and he formed a fake religious nonprofit, and he flipped them over to himself with the help of someone who he bribed at uh, housing development to overpraise them, to get a giant loan, which he ate and didn't use to finish up anything. And so when we walked in, his bank wanted to close. It was just like, you're closing everything. And there was a giant piece. And next thing I knew, I see it on The Sopranos that Tony's been telling, yeah, we should do this. And Tony starts to do it. And he goes in and he starts pulling out all the copper pipes. And he wants to take all the copper out of the house. If you remember that episode, I thought that was
It's a weird coincidence. We just went to this place in Little Italy last night. And wanted to take him to see it. It's, I believe, Il Cucina or something,
Uh-huh.
something like that. It's where James Gandolfini used to eat all the time. So they have like a framed picture in there,
Yeah.
signed picture. But
It's a beautiful neighborhood down there.
Oh
man.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
Definitely.
my painting teacher lived there at the corner of Broome and Mulberry.
Okay. Yeah.
He lived on the top floor, and downstairs in that cafe was a giant painting that he gave those guys, and I would go and I would look at it. It was just a beautiful, beautiful piece. But he died a few years ago. His name was Frank Mason, and he was one of these ancient giants who was like, keeping the art of the masters in oil painting, still alive. So his style of painting was like Tiepolo, very loose, very gestural, very wet. The paint just kind of moved. We would joke that when Frank worked on your painting, he destroyed a paintbrush every time. So he would just come and he would attack it with such ferocity and moving around and swishing. And he was he was an amazing painter. And so he was my first teacher at the Art Students League, who I stayed with for a long time, because when I left science and I was like, I'm going to learn how to paint, there was this really beautiful chick at the Art Students League, and I said, "Will you go out?" And so we went out, and I think her agenda was, "Oh, you got to join Frank's class." My agenda was not
What are you doing this week?
art, exactly, but her agenda, and I'm like, grateful because she came over. And I made dinner, and she saw my paintings that I was working on, and she was like, "You really need to join Frank's class, Frank Mason's class." And so I joined his class, and we became friends. And I stayed there for several years and learned how to paint. And he had such it was an amazing, I mean, you know, he kind of like took everything that everybody did in oil painting, all the knowledge that all those great masters did, and he put them together and gave it to you, and he made you think about that. So it was kind of scientific in a way, the way he was teaching you how oils can be used, to create illusion, to create light, to create depth, and to um, yeah. So, and of course, like, you really learn to appreciate what you look at the Met of the old guys as well, because you could just see so much going on in there after that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Well,
good. I liked
I,
him.
I want to take you back even before Brooklyn,
So wait,
before
I'm so
before your
sorry.
wife. Yeah, it's okay.
Let me finish the how we got here story. And
Yeah.
I do, digress. Uh, so our apartment, we were getting, yeah, we couldn't afford it, and so we figured, why don't we just get a place cheap and fix it up? And so we purchased our brownstone really cheap with the idea that we'll turn half of it into paying the mortgage and live on half. And we moved in, and then we ran out of money at some point, and I left my job as a graphic designer, and I was just working in here full time. And in the summer, my cousin, who was in college, art school, he came and he helped me. And a lot of the stuff, I mean, at that point, electricity was done, plumbing was done. It was just sheetrock and painting and a lot of the, carpentry. And it was basic stuff. So there wasn't anything heavy for us to do. It was just, a lot to do. So we all just kind of did it, he and I, and, uh, yeah. And so we moved in 1 week before 9/11. And when we moved in a week before 9/11, we didn't have Con Ed at the time, no electricity, no gas. And so about a week later, 9/11 happened. And so Con Ed was focused all the way downtown for
And
the next...
point of clarification, Con Ed is the electricity company.
Right,
Correct?
yes.
Because I remember that was
I'm
a point
so
of
sorry.
confusion for
Yes.
me when I came from Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
got that now.
No, Con Ed is electricity and gas.
Okay.
In this case.
Gotcha.
So all the pipes were just a mess down there. And so to keep things under control, gas leakage and, of course, electricity fires, they were just focused down there for the next 6 months.
Mhm.
So luckily we had electricity, and we were just, plugging in uh, uh, electric blankets and just making it work until they finally made their way back up. Yeah.
So what were the steps that you took between that point in your life where, you're close to running out of money, you're in this newly purchased place,
Right.
reinventing it? Obviously, it's an investment trying to do that, to where you are now, which, I know a lot about. Maybe you could speak to where you're at more now a little bit, but
Sure.
what were the most important steps along the way?
The most, I just kind of, my wife and I, she was cool. She knew I wasn't a regular 9 to 5 job kind of guy. I was going to do what I'd like to do
Mhm.
and try to make that work. And so at that point, when we were building the house, I got interested in making stained glass windows. So I made a few stained glass windows for the house and used it as my calling card to get other stained glass window jobs. So for the first several years, I was just making a lot of stained glass windows, and I had one or two giant jobs. But still as an artist, someone last night said, "Oh, so you're a starving artist?" I said, "Well, I don't think I'm starving, but I just never have any money on me." It's like, so the penniless artist is, and that's what it was. And I was fine with that, and she was fine with that. But then once we had a kid, that changed the whole equation, because
Yeah.
now suddenly it was like, well, we do need health insurance.
Mhm.
And so I became a teacher. And again, so before I became a teacher, I'm like, painting full time. I'm making stained glass windows. to sort of sell. I'm trying to get into galleries.
Mhm.
I'm not having any success. So I start a nonprofit to get people into the studios, which we did that for like about 8 or 9 of those open studio events through 2013 or 2015. And it was basically, it's like, come, since I can't go there to the galleries, they're not giving me, I want to bring people here to see and to sell and to get our, myself exposure. And then, we had a kid, and so we're like, well, I guess I need to get
Yeah.
a
Well, it's
full-time job.
definitely the true definition of resilience. If they won't take you, you make your own shit
Yeah,
and bring everyone there.
exactly. Yeah.
I wanted to talk a little bit more about your time teaching and the Fulbright.
Okay, so the Fulbright came much before.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, tell me about that.
Okay. Well,
I'm sure a lot of people don't know what that is, so let's start there.
Oh, okay. So the Fulbright has two. There's a fellowship and there's a scholarship. I think the fellowship is for graduate students if you already have a PhD, and the scholarship is for anybody else, like in the arts. If you want to go somewhere and research or learn the art tradition of a different place, be it theater, music, or visual, then you can apply for a Fulbright. And it's like applying for a grant. You tell them exactly what it is you want to do. And in this case, I was at a point where I'd spent a long time at the Art Students League learning the Western traditions in art. And I was like, well, I got to look into my own traditions,
Mhm.
being that I'm from India, and understand those a little bit because they have a very different set of rules about color and line and whatnot. So I thought that let's go to India and learn. And so the first year that we were married, we spent it in India on the Fulbright, sort of, yeah.
And your wife was there with you
Yeah.
on one as well.
Yes, yeah, she was here on the Fulbright with me. I had gone before from the Art Students League. They had a grant called the Edward McDowell Traveling Grant. So I got it one year, and it was the highest prize you can get. Everybody was in shock that they gave it to me,
Yeah.
as was I. So it's cool. But then my brother, he lives in India, and he was like, "Well, why don't you try living in a third world country for a change?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay. The girls there are kind of cute." That's basically how I think. And so I went, and I was chasing tail.
That's all he does. That's why he's laughing.
Chasing tail for two. I was chasing tail for 2 years. I was like, what else am I gonna do? I mean, dude, I'm a painter.
Paint, chase tail.
Exactly. So yeah, that ended kind of tragically. I don't know if we want to get into that stuff.
I don't know if we have
Okay.
enough time.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
I know, so you've been
So
to
then-
India, and
yeah.
that's what I wanted to talk about. How did that influence you on that Fulbright or in the McDowell travels as well?
Yeah,
Because you're from there originally, and
I
you
am
came to
from
New York
there.
City when?
I came in third grade.
Okay, so what, you're like 7, 8
I guess
at that
so.
point?
Yeah.
Okay,
We lived in Queens at the time.
cool. So you've
Flushing.
been all around New York City.
Yeah.
No, like
Yeah,
the back of
been,
your hand.
I do know it like the back of my hand. Yeah. So sorry.
Sorry, my question was when you're on the Fulbright and the McDowell, these travels, at this point, I don't know, were you making paintings like the ones behind us here?
No,
or,
I was. I mean,
how have you
yeah. So remember,
changed?
back at that time, I was still a realist. I'd studied with a very traditional, Western classical old masters guy. So I was using those techniques and ideas to just paint out there. One of the things I loved painting with Mason was landscapes. So one of the things I would do is just go out into unknown places in India and paint landscapes. Another thing I would do is just spend hours in the museum drawing the sculptures. I figured if I draw it and draw it and draw it and draw it, it's going to reveal its own secrets to me. And there's very little written. There are very few people that have written about the ideas of composition and whatnot in Indian art. So whatever they were, I found, and I found some other books that were about tantric art.
Can
And
you elaborate on composition in art? That's what you said. What do you mean
yeah,
by that?
so a lot of uh, a lot of Western art or painting, let's say. Um, so one of the big things that we use when you plan a composition is the way you're looking at is this is a tough question is using a spiral
Hmm.
as a way to control how the eye moves as it goes in. And Rubens was great at that. Everything in his composition is very circular, and if you put a line and trace how things are going, it always goes in a spiral down to the very point,
Yep.
which Um, and in Indian art, the way the circle and the square and intersecting lines were used was not a spiral. And this is a very simple and general, and there's so much more going on.
Hmm.
Like I didn't understand why there were so many arms on the bodies.
Yeah.
I didn't understand what how they were doing things. Why did they not put muscles and definition? And you know I wanted to understand what they were thinking.
Yeah.
So one thing is that the way you use composition is to control how time is happening. So if you have uh a lot of lines at the same diagonal again and again and again, that repeating pattern creates a rhythm.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of cool stuff that they did back then in art, and I wanted to understand it. So, for instance, like you've seen this sculpture of Shiva dancing with like a circle of fire. Like if you find one that's really well made, the very first thing is you're supposed to put a drop of milk at the top and it should flow down perfectly. There has to be balance in it because it's an image of a god. But also the way the body parts are constructed, like you would have the upper arm in one position, but the forearm in a totally different position. And then putting those two together, it would look like the hand was turning. So they would do all these things. So it wasn't about muscular realture, but it was about, how do you convey movement in time in this still piece of stone and whatnot. So,
So after going over there and learning these different aspects of art in India, what did you bring back with you, and how did it lead you here?
yeah, so I think, well, I just painted for a long time while I was there. I did on the McDowell as well. I lived there for 2 years. I was able to stretch my money and just paint. And this time I did, I think it really affected my colors a lot and affected the way I was planning my composition and how the eye goes and where it goes. Uh, you know, Also, the the idea of putting your mind into a certain, I'm sorry, having a mindset like, meditating so that you can clear your mind when you work, something that helped me, um, on and off. And now I do it more and more because I'm just old, and yeah, I'm just
Well,
getting old. But so what, I think the big thing was colors. And I like, one of the things I realized was that, like, they, you know, there was such freedom with colors. Like, here in a lot of traditional painting, yellow's not used. It's toned down. Red is used to represent um, some things. The Virgin Mary is always in blue. So there the palette changes in its meanings and how it's related to things, and so just having that extra bit of another palette to play with made it fun for me
Yeah.
to paint.
So I
don't
want
know.
to talk a little bit more now. Obviously, everyone can see you have a lot of color in your
Yeah,
artwork.
yeah.
I know personally that you have the color series, the yellow series, the brown series.
So I think I know, and I want to take a step back and
Yeah.
respond to your question. How did I go from painting realistically to this?
Mhm.
I think there just came a point where at some point I needed to express more than what realism was allowing me to express.
Yeah.
And that was just basically it. I just kind of stopped, which led to, so what ended up happening at one point was when I found that my tools weren't enough in conveying what I wanted to convey, went back to the basics and started to play with line again and started to play with color again and reteach myself everything, just sort of take everything I knew and throw it out the window.
Mhm.
So in taking everything I knew and throwing it out the window, I had to leave oil painting
Mhm.
and I picked up wax.
So talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so
What do you mean by wax? And
so these
what are
are
these?
encaustic paintings, and encaustic is you're mixing pigment into beeswax, and the pigment gets suspended. So what you do is the wax is really hot and molten,
Mhm.
and when you apply it, it's like melted butter,
Yeah.
and it cools very fast, and whatever's in there gets suspended. So you can really build layer upon layer upon layer of very translucent um, colors and transparent. And when the light hits it, if you buff it up and if the light hits it, you can actually, it, it does shimmer and it does get trapped in there per layer, and you can see more and more and more going on. Eventually, what ends up happening to the paintings is initially, like the wax itself is a bit cloudy initially, so you have to buff it. And when you buff it, that cloudiness is gone, and then it really shines through. Um, yeah, so I changed. I picked. I didn't want to stay with oil painting because it was so. It was what's the word? It was just you know, it was tied into everything. My
Yeah.
entire education, Rembrandt, yada yada yada. I wanted to leave everybody and just do something completely fresh and on my own. So the very first thing I started to do was say, well, let me just try to learn one color at a time. So I started to learn yellow. And I just wanted to see if I can paint with yellow by itself so that I can understand its expressive qualities and what can it do as a vocabulary of its own. I don't want to put it with anything else. What is yellow? What can painting with yellow teach me about yellow? Was, I guess, an easy way of putting it. And that led to the next series, which was brown, which was, Trump got elected. I was teaching in East Harlem. I have all these kids. Kids are cool, man. Kids are the best. So kids were just like, I had all these kids, and some of them were like, uh, you're Mexican, man. They're gonna take you back over the wall. That's right. The only test you'll be passing is at the border. Sort of shit going on. I'm like, hey. So kids had these fears, man. They were like, all these kids, like, Mister, am I gonna get deported? Am I gonna get deported because I'm Mexican? Am I gonna get deported because I'm a Muslim? And so and it was so sad because they're like, yo, I'm gonna lose everything because of the color of my skin and the way I look. And, I didn't really have any answers. I mean, I was like, well, I don't. I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know, but I completely understand your pain and I understand where you're coming from. You're totally right. And so I started to create a set of paintings because there's all this stuff with, Donald saying, shithole countries, and the way he was describing them, it didn't make them feel good about themselves. So I started to create paintings that was based upon their skin tones. And these paintings were meant to be about how beautiful they are. And while some people look at them and think that brown is dirty, looks like shit, I was trying to take just the language of the color brown. And but I see now it's really weird because with the paintings, I've had people. So that's what led to this. Was I'm working in a dark dungeon all by myself, and I would invite people in to look at them, and they would never make the associations with the paintings that I wanted them to make. They had to have that story.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so that became a point of like I'm working alone, and everything I'm doing is wrong. I'm making these paintings, but nobody understands them. So let me go and let me go and take it to the street here, and sort of let me take it out and see what people have to say, out here, over here.
Well, I think it's great, and I know I'm intimately familiar with the Brown series, and I think a question that a lot of people listening are probably asking, like, why the hell is this dude talking to this dude? And
Because we're friends.
we are friends,
That's
and
the only reason.
people don't know why. So I want to shed some light. This is the point I've been waiting to get to talk about it. How the Brown series.
This is the point you've been waiting to
I've been waiting for. The Brown series I'm intimately familiar with because of the opportunity that I'm honored to have, which is to be able to work and take those paintings and work to try to get them sold for you as NFTs. So I was brought to Reuben by our good friend Reuben. And
you guys know Robin?
I do, yeah. And I came to New York City
when he had hair. Yeah, he was this really cute-looking guy.
He's younger than you, right?
He is.
Yeah.
I gotta say, man, he always looked like so innocent. And when he had hair, his eyes were really big, and he was always smiling. And he just looked like he was, prime target for some sleazebag, pedophile back then. Because he was a really pretty looking boy.
Yeah, we're not cutting that out.
What?
Nothing. That's in there.
You're gonna cut that out.
And when Reuben listens, we'll have to get his reaction. We'll know if he listens because this is the point where he's gonna text, "What the hell were you guys talking about?"
Yeah. So we wanted to do nothing but mischief. And he just seemed like such a sweet little guy. And I'm like, okay, come along. We don't know what's gonna happen. Of course, we didn't do all that much. Besides just be, stupid, drunken suburban boys.
Well, Reuben is a great friend of mine, and I know him to be all the things that you said. But he introduced us a while back when I came to New York City to see if we could work together. And in the work that I've done, taking those paintings and turning them into NFTs, I had to dive into that. And I think it's a really interesting subject for someone like me to dive into because the Brown series is a collection of paintings that are based on the color brown in its entirety, but obviously intimately focusing on brown people and the experience of those living in brown skin. And just from the fact that you know me, I've grown up in a lot of communities that are predominantly Black and brown communities in my life. So I kind of have a unique experience with that community. A lot of my best friends have that experience, and that's something that I definitely used to my advantage in the work that I had to do, whether it be doing write-ups for the paintings or anything like that. But this is actually a question that I've been meaning to ask you a lot off camera, and it came to my mind, so I'm just going to ask you here. one of the paintings in the Brown series is called Kayla,
Yeah,
and was that one of your students?
yeah,
I thought that was really cool because when I
yeah.
look at it, and you have, I saw your audio notes that you took on the paintings. You kind of describe her personality, and when I look at the painting, I really get that.
Oh, you
Like, I
do?
get what
Thank
you're
you.
talking about.
Yeah,
And I think that's a really cool thing. And I've just learned a lot from you about the rules of art. Like, and there are no real rules, right?
yeah,
But when you talk about the lines, and I'm not a professionally trained artist, and there's no way I could ever understand it as much as you do. But when I hear all of these things that you explain to me about the pieces that you make, and then I read the notes, and then I look into promoting these things and how we can make this NFT project take off. I think the best way to attack it absolutely is trying to capture that, the authenticity behind this isn't just a painting
yeah.
that I threw together.
No,
It's actually very deeply inspired by a person.
yeah. It's a
Uh,
relationship to a person who's
yeah,
very timid and shy and quiet, and at the same time scared of what her choices in life were. And you know just she had a she was such a beautiful kid, but and had such a tough situation, right? So I you know um uh nowadays what I do a lot in my paintings is, as I make, what I'll do is, and I can share an image in my notebook of, so when I start painting, I'll mix colors, and each color may be related to a specific memory uh, about that person
yeah,
or something, and as I'm painting, I'm taking each memory or each situation and I'm mixing it all together
hmm
and seeing what comes and which one stands out and which one gets to be on top and which one. So, like when I'm painting something, I'm taking all these colors and I'm building up the character or the personality or the situation where all these ideas, all these memories meet. And then I'm totally destroying it. And then I'm building it right back up. And then I'm destroying it again. So that, I don't know why, but I feel like I have to destroy it as well as, in order for it to
feel complete.
be something new.
Okay,
So I don't want it to be just the memory it was. I want the memory to grow and change
yeah.
only through this process. What does that mean?
We're coming in on a close here soon, but I
Okay.
kind of wanted to just dive into this a little bit more if we can. You put a lot of emotion, raw emotion, into these paintings. Then you're
Yeah.
attacking ideas, especially I know this latest series is called Grieving. So there's a lot of
Conversations with my dad.
conversations with your dad.
Yeah. I
And
changed the title.
I like that. And I find that to be terrifying personally. I think that is something that can be incredibly emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, what I know it's since it's very demanding, like how often do you work? And is there any period where, you've reached your creative output
Yeah.
for
So
weeks
no,
on
yeah,
end?
it does go in cycles, and I can't, I don't know. But I mean, you know, your dad dies, and no matter how much you're expecting it and knew it was going to happen, everybody dies. It just, it creates this really heightened emotional state, which you don't know how long it is, or you don't know what to do. When I don't know what to do with it, I close the door in the cellar and I go hide in my dungeon and I just paint,
Yeah,
and I try to figure things out there. And you know, down there I can cry and no one's gonna judge me.
yeah. And
No
you can
one's gonna
put that
see me.
and you can put that into a painting.
I can just paint and paint and not have to explain. Should I just stop right here like this? It's like one of those
do
Yeah.
like
are
an
we
ending.
ready to go real quick?
Well, wait, hold on. I want to finish my Brad story. Brad,
Yeah. Okay. So
the fucking guy can sit down anywhere and strike up a conversation. And just like, so we're always like, and we're not like that. I'm not like that. My other friends are not like, we're just with, how, he just sits down, strikes up a conversation. And so we try to understand, like, okay, wait. You sat down, and what did you say? Because we want to understand, how smooth he is, or like, how does he become so smooth, and we're just a couple of, dumbasses. And he's just like, and
That's how he is.
he's just like, it's so effortless the way he talks to them about anything and makes them feel comfortable enough to give a number and then later hook up again.
oh yeah.
And this
He's
is,
like, I know it all too well.
dude, he picked up this hot girl in Taiwan
That's awesome.
on a tourist bus and had an amazing night with her.
I want to be like him.
He told us this amazing detail, like, she took off her top, and she was on top of him, and she had amazing breasts, and just like,
He's like, I'm
spectacular. But, so I'm not sure if he'd want me to share this, but so before things got heavy, she was wearing a necklace with like a Buddha symbol on it. She took it off, put it on the side, just did it, and then
Proceeded.
went back. And he said that was so intimate a moment
Yeah.
that you just like, and that's what I was saying. Like that is
Wait,
wow.
that reminds me of what was it? I forget.
Hold on one
Oh
second.
wait, no, oh my. we're-
Let's jump back really quick.
I
'cause
got
we only have a
another
couple
friend
minutes.
who likes to talk about, getting his dick sucked with ice cubes in her mouth.
Yeah, I haven't had that. Okay. But anyway, 2 minutes.
Okay. So, and it's, you know what? It's
Do we have more batteries?
No, it's the card, the storage.
Oh, so what do you have to do? You have to change it? Or?
and we had never been like, we're just going for fun, and we'd been doing a lot of traveling because Corona. We were just, like you said, kind of young and stupid and chasing tail, and we wanted to do some cool stuff, and it was really cheap because everything was locked down, and flights were like, I think we got a flight to LA for like $50 round trip, something crazy like that from Pittsburgh. Our first night there, we get our car that we had rented, what were we, 18 years old? I don't even know how we got a car. We got it towed first night. $300 cash to get it back. It's like all the cash. So our car gets towed, and I'm like, what's going on? And then this guy, the king of Tinder, he pulls off something that I've never even seen.
So I basically, I get the whole. I literally went to, I was on Tinder. I started talking to this one female, and then she basically hits me with, oh yeah, no, well if you want to smoke, we'll be in Santa Monica. So I looked at everyone and was like, yeah, well I'm catching an Uber. I'll see you guys. I'm about to go smoke with this girl. So I go there. I pull up outside this hotel, and there's this one guy. His name's Apollo. Apparently he's in Taylor Gang. I seen him earlier in the day, like just walking about. He walks up to me with a big book bag, and I see him walking down the street with these two girls playing music, and he sees me and he stops and he's like, hey. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm about to link up with this girl. He's like, hey, you see me? And then we're just bullshitting for like 3-4 minutes, and then he ends up dipping. And then she comes down with 3 people, or no, 4 people. It was one bigger kid, her friend, her boyfriend, and then her. So I see this whole group of people, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, fuck me. I'm like, I didn't sign up for a group activity right now. I thought I was about to just, chill, vibe, have a good time. So we go down to the beach. They forget a lighter. So they sparked the idea of, oh, okay, let's just go smoke on the balcony back at the hotel. I say, all right. We go back there. We get all settled in. And then I put on the Dewey Cox Story, which is one of my favorite comedy movies. It's just a stupid early 2000s comedy.